Hey guys, I'm Ellie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing something, this isn't totally unheard of. It's just, I'm gonna learn English real quick and then I'll BRB. Today I'm going to be doing a video that I feel like has once upon a time been highly requested, and when I just never did it, you guys just pretended like you didn't want it, but every time like I mentioned it, you all wanted it. So today I am going to be showing you guys how I actually make my thumbnails. So many people have complimented me on my thumbnails. I honestly don't think they're like anything fancy. They're not like works of art. I don't use anything special. This amazes me. I don't have Photoshop. I don't really have anything super special. So the only thing I use for video editing is iMovie, but that has nothing really to do with my thumbnails. Get into like some simple basics, what I use, and then I'm going to show you, I think I'm going to show you guys like 4 different styles of the thumbnails that I do, so that you guys can get kind of a basic understanding of the things that I do and just use them to however you want to. Let's start off with basically the image that I get for my thumbnail is usually just some random still from my video. It's not always cute. I don't always remember to like pause for a thumbnail. Things just are always crazy and haywire and we just don't know what's happening. So I usually just take a still from this, screenshot that, and that's what I use. Program that I actually use is an online program. It's not even one that you have to download. However, I do pay for it. The site that I use is actually PicMonkey. I feel like this was really popular back in the day when it was $5 for a membership. That's how much I still pay. I think because I was around in like their OG days. I honestly don't know how much it is for a membership currently. I just think depending on the things that you are looking for, I think it's a really great price, honestly. Like, I use it so much. I use it for thumbnails, I use it for overlays, I use it at work. I love that I don't have to worry about copyright things with it. It just functions so well. So I definitely think that it's worth it instead of spending like $800 on a program that I barely know how to work. I'd rather just spend however much it is a month and just know that it's there. It saves things for you. You don't even think you have to have a membership. They do have like a free version, but it doesn't have all the tools. I use a lot of the premium tools, so I think that it's worth it, but that's just, again, that's on you, my friends. So from that, I actually just use a lot of the fonts that come on it now. However, if I'm looking for like something different, a little special font, I'd use defont.com, and that's how I download any of my special fonts. It's just great. Okay, you do have to check sometimes because there are things on there that you do have to attribute to the creator, obviously, which is why I tend to stick to a lot of the PicMonkey fonts because I don't really have to worry about where they came from. Plus they're just already there. They have so many options, so it's not too hard to find something useful. Anytime I want to add like an overlay, a lot of times I just use their overlays, like their images and things like that. Anytime I go outside of that, if I use Google, I'll download some, make sure it has like a transparent background. Most of the time I'm just looking for emojis, so nothing too fancy there. That's literally the only things that I use. Defont.com, which is totally free, and PicMonkey, which can be free but tends to cost for the things that I'm gonna show you. So, you know, that's just on you. A lot of this just comes from playing around. I've spent many hours on the PicMonkey. Anytime I find like a new software that I really like, I just mess around with it until I feel really comfortable with it, and I think that that's just how any program works. So definitely mess around with this, but I hope that this gives you some inspiration, some tips and tricks, things like that. So let's get into some of these thumbnail styles. I'm not going to go into too many details here. Again, the key is usually to play around. One of the things that I do like to do is I do go into exposure and I will just mess around with this a little bit. That's usually the first step in doing my thumbnails after I've like arranged the picture to where I want it. And then now I'm going to show you guys how I normally do like a colored background. So I tend to go to effects, and what I go to is tint. Sometimes I do a gradient, but usually tint, and then I'll choose the color that I want. I normally just kind of mess around with this a little bit. I'll mess with like the fade and the blend mode to see what I feel like works the best.
And then what I do is there's like a paintbrush thing at the top there, and you can actually go in and delete or paint on parts. So I like to keep the hardness down because it's okay if there's like a little glow around me. That's whatever. It makes it easier to just get rid of those things. So I just go in and I will just do anywhere that I don't want the colored background, basically. And I'm pretty messy with this. I'm not super precise. It's a thumbnail. It's not like a work of art, so I don't worry too much about my imperfections. Sometimes if I mess up, like, you can choose whether or not you're erasing or painting on, and I'll just go in and select like a smaller size for some of those like weird crevices. It's a lot easier sometimes to go in and fix after you've erased something than it is to like erase certain parts, if that makes any sense. So like I might overline something and just go in with a smaller brush to get those weird corners. Another thing I like to do is do like patterns in the background. So I'll find a pattern from the graphics section and like design graphics section, and I'll go in and I'll find a pattern that I want, and I will just copy and paste these to my liking and change the color of them. You can change like the fade and the blend mode and stuff like that. I'll do that and I'll just layer these on, and then I do the exact same thing. The only thing that's different with these is that you have to select each item as you erase it. Like you can erase over multiple items, so you'll have to select that. There is the erase tool again, and then I just go in and erase where I basically don't want it. So relatively easy. I use the same methods for so much. So this erase background thing is just like my go-to for like literally everything. Now for adding text, and I think this is what you all really want to know. Like you want that deep back shadow, which I don't know, that seems to be like the trend on YouTube. So they've made it really easy for the text. You can now just click on the text and edit in one box. It used to be like there'd be 2 different boxes that you had to edit in. Again, I tend to just use the ones that they provide. They're pretty good. They have a nice selection. So I will just mess around with that and find one that I really like. This has been my favorite recently, and I'll just kind of mess around with that. They've also added this really super nice like letter spacing. So if you want to mess around with that, because sometimes some of the default fonts, the letters are like just too far spaced out for my liking. But what I like to do is go into effects and do a drop shadow and put a 0 distance, and then the horizontal blur and the vertical blur both 10, the intensity all the way up and the fade all the way down. So that's step 1 for like those thick shadows. I like to have a border around my words, so then I'll just copy and paste that, and I'll make the second one totally black, and then I go into layers and I just drop that behind. And that's how I make those really deep kind of shadows behind it. I like having you can make the shadows in the effects, but it won't have the border around it, but I like to have the border. So, and then I will just copy and paste this a bunch of times, and that's how I do my fonts, basically. Real complicated stuff, I know. Now this is how I make my library hauls. It's basically that like slice of color on the one side. I just take a square and I will turn it, and I just fit it till it's kind of got that like slice that I want. And then I will change the color, and I change like the fade, or I will change the what's the word, blend effect on it. And then I do the same thing that I've been doing, and I just go in and erase the parts around my body. Like, that's it. And then this last one is how I do my hauls, and I tend to make the background of just a color, whatever color it is for the month for my thumbnails, and then I will go in and add a pixelated effect to this original layer. Once I'm done doing that, I will go in and add a second photo, or the original photo. I'll just re-add that in and make it smaller, and it's nice because this has like a thing that will tell you if something's centered or not. So I just go in and I center that, and then I will add a shape, and the shape that I add is like the square that has the transparent center, and I will just fit that around that to make a border, and that's pretty much that.
I hope that you guys have liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!